All right, you absolute legends. It seems like picking an SMMA niche seems to be an insurmountable task for a lot of new SMMA owners out there. I am part of a lot of groups, and a lot of the questions I see that pop up are, is this niche good? What about this niche? Should I go into this niche? So in today's video, I'm going to break down the 5 things I look for in an SMMA niche. I still use this to this day when I'm helping my consulting clients and when I get my coaching calls over at EasyGrow. These are the 5 things I recommend people do. And I'm also going to share with you some niches I think that could be worth looking at that I think could fit the bill for these 5 things really well. And I guarantee you that these 5 things, there's a couple here that you wouldn't have heard anyone speak about. Okay, so for those who don't know who I am, my name is Jimmy. Everyone calls me Uncle Jimmy. And I've been running my agency, My Online Guy, for over 8 years now. And I'm also the service delivery coach over at EasyGrow, which is Charlie Morgan's course. And I do a lot of consulting and I help people with their service delivery challenges. Okay, so let's just get straight into it. Okay, so the first thing I look for when deciding on a niche for SMMA and what I tell my consulting clients to do is to pick something that is low volume, high ticket. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but the main reason you want to pick something that's low volume, high ticket, and what I mean by high ticket is anything that's worth lifetime value wise over say $5,000, I consider to be reasonably high ticket. And the reason you want to pick something that's low volume, high ticket is just makes logistics and scaling so much easier. So let's think about it like this, right? Okay, let's hypothetically say you pick a niche that is high volume, low ticket, something like med spa, right? Now, there's obviously a lot of people in the space that make med spa work. But the thing is with med spa, the lifetime value could be like sub maybe $1,000 to $2,000, let's say $2,000, right? But it's high volume. So you might get 100 inquiries a month for your business that you're working for. Each one of those people you get for your business, you either have to appointment set for them or the client has to deal with them. Generally, the more inputs that come into a system like an SMMA, the more it costs to run it. So you think about it, if you get 100 leads a month and you're sifting through them to book appointments for your client, let's say, for instance, of those 100, maybe 20 turn into booked appointments. So like 20% conversion rate. Let's say you have 100 that turn into 20. That is 100 people that have to be manually contacted to see if they're a fit. Now let's do the inverse of this. Let's say it's high ticket, low volume, which is what I suggest. So with the high ticket, low volume, you may only get, let's say you get 20 leads a month. Each one of those customers you get for your clients worth $5,000 if you get to them. You may do the same numbers. You may turn them into a 5, but same conversion rate, same everything, but you're making the same amount of money for the client on this end, but it requires less work on your end to produce that. So you're getting the outcome for the client, the same outcome, which would be if they were $2,000, it'd be roughly the same amount of money. You're getting a similar outcome for the client, but it requires 75% less work on your end. Sorry, 80% less work on your end because you're not having to sift through all those leads and sift through all those appointments. And anecdotally, let's say you're not booking appointments and you're just doing lead generation. A lot of clients don't want to have to sift through 100 bloody leads a month. It's just a big administrative toll on their business. So if they're not going to do it and you have to do it, that administrative toll becomes part of your cost of running a business. And it can get quite expensive because you think about it, you need at least one appointment setter for every client, 100 appointments a month. You might need half an appointment setter. So one appointment setter could probably do 2 clients a month. So you think about it, if you wanted to scale this up, this model with 120, if you wanted to scale that up, you're going to need a small army of appointment setters to do that. Whereas if you have an appointment setter just dealing with 20, they can do 5 times as many. You can take 5 clients on for the same amount of cost. And that's why I like low ticket, high volume. So when I think of low ticket, high volume, I think of like painting, I think of pools, I think of roofs, I think of business brokers, because they don't need as much volume to get the 7 to 10 ROAS they need to really smash it out of the park for them. But it also requires less work on your end to get it. So definitely low ticket, low volume, high ticket is the way to go. And that's just based on a lot of experience. Okay, so the second thing I have here, and this isn't in any in particular order, is a clearly defined market. Now, this is super important and it's a bit that no one talks about. It's really difficult from a scalability perspective if you don't have a clearly defined target audience for your business that you're working for. So what I mean by that is that you have, let's say, for instance, you're working with a plumber. Say hypothetically, we wouldn't because they're high volume, low ticket, but let's say you're working for a plumber. You know that for a plumber, You're basically after anyone that needs a plumber, right? So your audience is very clearly defined. It works very well for Google Ads because if someone has a broken tap, that's who they're going to call. You can picture the person and you can create an avatar. It's like the person who needs a plumber is someone that has a broken tap or has a leaking faucet. It's very clearly defined define an audience. Now, let's say, for instance, you're working with an audience that wasn't as clearly defined. Let's say you're working with a tea company, or I got a cup of tea here. Let's say you're working with a tea company. It's a lot harder to define the audience who wants tea because it's so broad that it can get quite difficult to run ads for that because you're going to have to do a lot of experimenting to find the perfect audience that will work really well. Now, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that. There's actually good cases for doing that because generally there's riches in the niches. The harder something is, the more you can charge for that. But as an SMMA owner, we're trying to make our life as simple as possible and remove complexity. So the more defined the market actually is, the better and easier it is to run an agency at scale because you can create ads that work again and again for that niche. So you really want to have a clearly defined market. So if we use an example again, let's say, for instance, we're working with painters. Let's say it's residential painting. The market is a person who owns a house that is looking for a painter. It's very easy and clearly defined. So you can find those people, you can hunt those people down, you can have intent in search, you can find people through Google that search that way, but you can also start to talk to those people directly when it comes to ads. Whereas, like I said, if it was a tea company, you're gonna have to throw a lot at the wall to see if it sticks. So painters, pool, landscaping, roofers, business brokers, there's a lot there that fit that sort of cut from the cloth where it's clearly defined. You know exactly who you're targeting. Business brokers, you are targeting people who are wanting to sell their business. Very clearly defined, very easy to articulate, and it's very easy for the client to explain who they are as well. Okay, so the next thing I look for in an SMMA niche is long consideration cycles. And what I mean by that is that it's not long decision cycles. That kind of is counterintuitive, but it also works. Long consideration cycles, right? So let's take the pools as an example. From the time someone thinks about getting a pool to the time they do it could be like 6 to 12 months, right? So last summer they've gone around, it could really be good to have a pool. And then they decide to do the pool the next summer, right? Could be 6 to 12 months. The beauty about a long consideration cycle like that is that it allows you to place your ads over a longer period of time to slowly break them down and make them relent from the sheer volume of ads that you can push, because you can capture them anywhere in that consideration cycle, and then you can basically move that forward. So for instance, let's say, they were going to do a pool 6 months from now and you have an amazing offer. You might be able to get them to make a decision earlier based on that offer because they're considering it that whole period of time. Now let's compare that to a plumber that has incredibly short consideration time. So let's say it's like that, right? From the time that their tap leaks, which is where this starts, to the time they need their tap fixed is generally like hours, right? So their consideration time is incredibly low. Same with their more higher ticket stuff that a plumber does, like hot water. Their consideration time is the same. From the time that their hot water stops working to the time they need it fixed is very low. And the problem with that, it doesn't give us much time in the middle to run information type ads like Facebook ads. It works well for Google. This works amazingly well for Google. But as far as like using Facebook ads, you think about it, if you're running an ad for your plumber, you effectively have to have the ad showing at the very point in time, this very short window. You have to have the ad showing and it has to actually resonate with them, and they have to click it, and then you have to get back to them quickly. It's just a very short window. You're basically firing a bullseye. Whereas this is like firing lots of arrows at the board and hoping one hits the target, if that makes sense. So you really want to do long consideration cycles. So this is things like, again, painting, right? If you are working with a painter, some people think about getting their house painted for 5 years before they actually do it. They sit on their hands, they procrastinate, and a really good compelling offer might get them to do it now as opposed to 2 years from now when their paint's physically peeling off the walls. Now, the next thing I consider when picking an SMMA niche is something that no one talks about, but it's incredibly important. And this is saying, as someone that's worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of clients now, is business owner sophistication. As a SMMA owner, you want to make your life as simple as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is work with unsophisticated business owners who really appreciate the work that you do for them. And I am only speaking from experience here. it is actually quite difficult to work with someone that kind of knows Google ads or kind of knows Facebook ads enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be effective, because they're going to second guess and question all of the work you do. And not only is that just annoying, it's also a administrative drag on your business, because every time they send you a message or send you an email, it takes time away from the work that you should be doing that generates revenue, because you don't generate any revenue from doing support. If you are answering questions about someone's curiosity on why you did certain things, then you're providing education for no cost, and you should be charging for that education. So I always try to aim for businesses that have a low sophistication when it comes to marketing. And it's really solely for the reason it makes my life easier. So these are things like the pool company, right? They're probably really good at putting pools in the ground. They're probably really good at selling pools, but they couldn't make an ad to save their life. And that's why they're working with you. As opposed to, say, a agency or maybe an e-commerce business where they actually know a little bit about marketing, because they're generally generalists. They know a little bit about everything. And because of that, they may question and query why things aren't working. They may change things without you knowing. Whereas I've worked with a lot of trade-based services, pools, painters, roofers, things like that, landscapers, and they pay me for years and years because they just associate them getting the lead flow with me doing the work for them, which makes a massive difference because they stick to their own lane. I stick to my own lane. I don't tell them how they should run their business, and then they don't tell me how to run the ads. And then we get good outcomes because of it. Okay, so this next one is a bit of a hot take. And like I said, these aren't in any specific order, but this one's a bit of a hot take, but I think it's actually really important for longevity's sake in regards to doing ads, is no network effect. And this is a very specific circumstance, but I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I don't like to work in niches that have referral networks. So things like real estate agents and mortgage brokers, I don't like to work in those niches because what it does is it limits my ability to run ads for them. And let me explain why that is. So you have intent and no intent, right? Let's say this funnel is real estate, right? So I'm just going to split this up. It's not like a funnel you normally see, but let's say, for instance, this is real estate. And let's say this bottom bit is search, right? So that's them getting to Google search. Up here is them thinking they're selling their home. So they enter the funnel. Now, if you're working with a real estate agent, generally you are able to advertise through all this, right? With Facebook ads here and Google ads here, let's say, for instance, right? But the problem lies with a business that has referral networks. Like, what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that know a real estate agent as opposed to someone that puts in pools, and they may not know someone that does pool. So that's what I mean by referral network, is you can throw a rock and your cousin or your sister is a real estate agent, or your, whatever. Someone knows someone that's a real estate agent or a mortgage broker, whereas not everyone knows a pool person. So what happens in that aspect, right? Let's say this is like immediate family. Let's say this is like Facebook groups. Let's say this is billboards, and then the search at the bottom. All through here, people are getting plucked out of this funnel, right, by these referral networks. Then they get to search. So all through here, someone's going with their cousin, someone's going with their niece, someone's going with their uncle, right? Someone's going into a Facebook group and asking, and someone knows a friend of a friend who's a real estate agent gets referred. That means that a lot of the potential clients that your business that you're working for could get are getting flushed away like this. By the time they get to the bottom, they may not be a fit because they've fallen through so many different referral networks that by the time they get to your ad, they may have already gone to their friend who said they're not a fit, and then maybe you're dragging around. Now, this isn't always the case. This is a personal preferencing. Now, if you compare that to, say, a pool person, right? A pool company may look more like this. You get the people coming into the top. You may lose one person to someone that knows someone in their network. You may lose someone here. You won't see billboards and flyers. They may get a radio ad or something, so you may lose one here, and then they go to search. So there's less people falling out of the funnel, which allows you to get more quality leads for your client. Now, this is, like I said, a hot take because this is just my personal preference. I find it's easier when you work with businesses with less referral networks, because also the client appreciates the value more because they know they can't just lean on friends and family to tell them they have pools. Whereas a real estate agent, they do have inflow of leads. They get their friends, or they get things that pop out of the woodwork. A pool company probably relies on word of mouth from friends and family telling other people about it, but they probably don't get the referral workload in. So when you run good ads for them and it works really well, they really appreciate it because it becomes one of their main channels. Whereas with a real estate agent, that may not be their main channel, the ads. It may just be a supplementary thing for them because they get most of their work from referrals from friends and family. If you just think about it as if they won't know someone in their network that does the job, that's a pretty good sign. It's a very minimal network effect type of business. Okay, so let's talk about some of the niches I'm keeping an eye on that I think are going to be really interesting to look at, that I think are underserviced and could be a potentially really awesome niche to go into if you're wanting to start your SMMA. One of those, and I'm just going to rattle them off, there's no actual order to this, but one of those I keep talking about in this video is the pool niche. I think the pool niche is a really good one. It's high ticket, it's low volume, and it ticks all the boxes. So I think that's one to really look at. And then there's all the general ones like painting and roofing and things like that, but they're pretty covered off. I don't see many people talking about them working with pool companies. And those pools are worth a lot of money, so they're willing to pay to get ads for them. Another one I really like is business brokers. I think business brokers is a completely underutilized one. There's more and more people getting to the age where they want to sell businesses, and business brokers are the people that facilitate that. So as more people enter the market and want to sell businesses, there's going to be more people looking for business brokers, and there's just not that many business brokers. Even though, and the beauty is it scales, right? There's not like an infinite workload that they can take on. And this is where pool maybe struggles a little bit in this aspect, is there's only so many pools a pool company can put in, whereas a business broker can have a lot of businesses listed simultaneously. So generally they're going to be always looking for work, which is always good. I quite like these two niches as well. Custom tailored suits and custom wedding dresses. I quite like these niches, and I'll tell you why. They aren't what you traditionally think of for SMMA, so there's not many people working with them. And it's something that people always need, right? If you do tailored suits, some of these guys are super established. They've been running forever. But as people get more sophisticated on the internet, they're going to have to evolve with that moving industry, moving tide of demographic. And people pay a lot for a custom suit. So tailored suits could be a really good one. It ticks all the boxes. You don't just know someone that does tailored suits. And then custom wedding dresses is almost like a infinite supply. People will pay a lot of money for a custom wedding dress, and weddings aren't going away anytime soon. So I feel like custom wedding dresses is a really solid one to do as well, because those people are always going to need custom wedding dresses, and those business owners aren't that sophisticated. So they generally will need help with their marketing. So I can think of a few more off the top of my head, but these are the ones I'm looking at specifically right now. So they're good ones to look at. They all tick all those 5 boxes that we talked about. And regardless of which niche you actually pick at the end of the day, as long as it fits into those 5 categories, I don't think you're really going to go wrong as far as an SMMA. If you can find a niche using those 5 parameters, I think you'll be okay. And this is Uncle Jimmy speaking with a lot of experience. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. This is where you're going to learn about service delivery. This one was a bit of a off topic because I don't normally talk about the sales side, but it does lead into service delivery. And if you don't get this right, it makes service delivery that much harder. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.